Coming up next on Tech News Today, Apple's app sales are going through the roof right now. Microsoft is showing old versions of its Internet Explorer to the door. Don't let the door hit you on the way out there. Ultra high def is the hotness at CES right now. We've got so much more to talk to you guys about next on Tech News Today.
This is Twit. Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1422, recorded Wednesday, January 6th, 2016.
This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by ZipRecruiter. Are you hiring? With ZipRecruiter.com, you can post to 100 plus job sites, including social networks, all with a single click. So screen, rate, and hire the right candidates fast. Try ZipRecruiter with a free 4-day trial now at ZipRecruiter.com/TNT.
And by FreshBooks, the super simple cloud accounting software that giving thousands of freelancers and small businesses the tools to save time billing and get paid faster. Try it free at FreshBooks.com/TNT.
And by Epson's new EcoTank printers. With Epson's line of SuperTank all-in-one printers, you can print thousands of documents without running out of ink. EcoTank is loaded and ready to print when you are. Visit Epson.com/EcoTank to find out more. Hello, welcome to Tech News Today, our third episode with this collection of
thing
folks.
We have going on.
Yeah, and so far they have not let us go yet. We are still here. So this is the show where we talk about all the tech news with people who are passionate about technology. I am Megan Morrone.
And I am Jason Howell. It's good to be back. Pre-CES, I'm wondering what this show's going to be like for us when there isn't the CES machine happening behind the scenes. I feel like it dominates.
It does, but I think there'll be a little more reality. There'll be actual news as opposed to here's this thing you might want to buy if you have $10,000 burning a hole in your pocket.
Yeah, exactly. We're thrilled to welcome to today's show Georgia Dow, senior editor at imore.com. How's it going, Georgia?
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, we're happy to have you. We're thrilled to get you on. You somehow escaped the CES craziness. You're back home. What's going on?
I know, I'm heartbroken about it. I love CES. I love to be around the tech. So I feel like I false advertised. Megan, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, we did not think you were there. We all of a sudden got scared today because I saw a picture on imore.com of you and Renee and Serenity, and you were at CES, but it was a picture from last year. So
it was from last year. Yeah, so I'm home.
All right. Well, let's get to the news. We have some Apple news today. While they are still keeping mum about Apple Watch sales, Apple has announced their App Store sales for the holiday season. On January 1st alone, Apple reports $144 million in sales for the iPhone, iPad, Mac, Apple Watch, and the Apple TV, the apps on all of those devices. That is the biggest single day in Apple's App Store history. Customers spent $1.1 billion in the 2 weeks ending January 3rd, and they've paid developers over $40 billion since 2008. So most of this came from an Apple press release. What do you think about this, Georgia?
Well, I think it just shows how popular Apple is. Everyone's waiting for it to bust, but it is still breaking records and going through it, and it just shows how well Apple puts together its apps and its App Store. It's not perfect, but people are still enjoying it, and we're just buying more and more applications and having a lot of fun with that.
I mean, a big part of this has to be kind of holiday. I mean, it's just the holiday shopping, right? Like you get an iPhone for Christmas. What is the first thing that you are going to do? You're going to open up your App Store, and you're going to find some really cool things that you can do with it. And that kind of plays into Apple's strength with iOS is that, it's a tremendous phone in its own right, and you can have it do amazing things by extending its capabilities with apps. I guess that's, same for Google, but they kind of play different sides of the coin. Apple really focuses, and this after years ago, not having apps to begin with and thinking, oh, well, it's a web-based world, so we're going to do this all web-based. Eventually, they come over to apps. Now it turns out that on iOS, apps are a pretty dominant way to explore, expanding the capabilities of your device. Yes, you can do that on other OSs like Android. You can do that, but Google takes a different approach. They take the ad-based approach, the more free open. In fact, Google's going in reverse, right? Google's saying, how can we make the web more app-like instead of bolster up kind of the app ecosystem? It's doing a little bit of both.
Yeah, it's
I
interesting.
think that it also says, a little bit of how, giving iTunes gift cards are now like a huge thing. Like it's now taken hold.
Yeah.
People know that they're going to be used. And so more and more we gave to our nieces and nephews, we gave them iTunes gift cards, which would, then they can use them to buy whatever applications or music or whatever they really wanted to use with it. And I think that more and more people are doing that.
I totally agree. I think that's probably a big part of these sales because especially with kids. I mean, kids, they want, I know we can disagree about what the better operating system is, but I know the kids, they want iPhones. It's sort of the thing that they think. I don't know a lot of kids who are just like, get me an Android phone. I mean, even your kids are that way, right?
Well, my kids are too young to have any sort of preference. If it has a screen, they're in. They're in. They do not care as far as that's concerned. As long as they can find Taylor Swift, that's pretty much what it boils down to for my kids, and that's all that matters.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. So this, like we said, this came from an Apple press release, and it was really putting their best foot forward. Like, look how much we sold in the App Store. But then there's this other story that's going on, which is what you sort of mentioned, Georgia. Like, everyone wants Apple to fail. There's this kind of inkling, like, are they selling as many iPhones? Are we reaching iPhone saturation? There was also a story about Foxconn, was a factory in China where they make a lot of iPhones. They've been cutting down on their employees' hours. So it's like they're sort of reading the tea leaves, maybe trying to imagine that Apple is failing, or are we really getting near to a place where everyone has the iPhone that they want and they're not going to upgrade as often?
Well, I think that people are still going to upgrade quite a lot. And I think that Apple's, having plans where you can pre-buy in and you get like a free phone if you pay monthly. I think that we're actually going to see a lot of sales of iPhones. But, you have to take a look at when Apple releases a new phone, they're going to sell more during the holiday seasons. When people are buying a lot of gifts, they're going to sell more phones. And then the lull, when you're about to come into a new phone is going to be released. You don't want to be the person that's on the end of the product line. You're going to spend the money. It's better to wait a few months and then, purchase the phone then. So a lot of people that might be thinking about it upgrading and they're like, you know what, there's going to be a new phone coming out. Maybe we will wait. And so there's always going to be this little lull that happens naturally in a product cycle. And so I don't know if this scaling back is just the natural cycle of everyone's already picked up the new phone that want to. The holidays are over, and now we have to kind of wait till the release of the 7, and then we're going to see another boon.
Now, are you still using an old-fashioned iPhone 6 instead of the 6S, Georgia?
I am not. Let me show you. Yes, I have. I did it.
Well, you said you were an every other year upgrader.
I am. I know. It's pink. It's pretty. I hate myself a little bit, but I did pick up the new phone. I could say, I could lie, like many people that work in tech say, kind of have to for work, but that's not why. It's just a beautiful phone.
Okay.
And, I get to see Renee Watt use it all the time. And
yeah, exactly. You're surrounded by people that have convinced themselves that they have to, and then that ends up being the pull. I know exactly what that's all about working here.
I don't want to do any yearly upgrade shaming because, Jason gets he upgrades his Android phone every 3 minutes, I think.
5-6 minutes maybe. Hey, look.
How many phones do you have right now, Jason?
It's actually pretty funny because a year ago I dropped what my phone was then, the Nexus 6, and people were like, "Oh man, that really sucks." I'm like, "Don't cry for me." Like, I have in my, at my desk, I have 5 phones just laying there waiting to be used. It's totally cool. This could happen to, a much worse situation. So,
right.
But that's just part and parcel of working where we do and doing what we do. I think the average consumer, you're right, they're on an every other year schedule. My wife, for example, she buys a new phone every 2 years. And, when she's been with Verizon, I don't think Verizon does the new every 2 anymore, but things like that really kind of instilled that kind of habit in a lot of people of, hanging around with the device that you have. It costs you a lot up front, or maybe it only costs you a couple $100, but you're going to hold on to that for a couple of years until it gets to that point to where you just can't stand to use it anymore for whatever reason.
Well, I think that was the case. I'm not sure if that's still the case. I have a 12-year-old, and it makes perfect sense to get her on the iPhone Forever upgrade every year plan. Financially, it makes sense. It is cheaper, but it's still shocking to me that a 12-year-old would just say, okay, every year from now on, I'm going to get a new iPhone, and why not? Because it's $9 a month on the plan that we are, but yeah, I mean, we're getting used to that. And I don't know what that's going to do to us or to the environment or just for our need to have new things. It's a little bit scary.
Yeah. You could have a trickle-down approach where you buy a new phone for your oldest, and then the next year that goes to the younger, and then a new phone for the...
That's true.
And it all trickles down.
They just keep having kids every year.
Yes. That's the other side of that.
Just so that you can buy more phones.
Yes.
Let's see here. Shifting gears, Microsoft is about to end support for Internet Explorer 8, 9, and 10 in an attempt to get users upgraded to version 11 or its Edge browser. Next Tuesday, users of those older browsers will receive their last real patch with any meaningful updates, namely a nag that's going to tell you to upgrade. So go ahead and turn on that automatic update if you want to stay current and protected going forward.
Well, this story, the headline first was like, it turns on the kill switch. They're killing, Internet Explorer. And it's just like, that's a little clickbait. I mean, it's just the end of the update cycle. And who is still using these old browsers? You should not be. And, I asked around, I posted something on Twitter, does anybody, because I think Edge is the browser that Microsoft wants everyone to use.
Yes, of course.
But I don't know a lot of people that use it and love it. And so, I asked and a lot of people replied honestly. They said, I tried it. Here's Dominic. He said, I assume that it's still a work in progress. So I start every day using it until it fails to load a page. Then I go to Chrome. So, I mean, I believe in, that attitude, Dominic. But yeah, I don't know who's still using IE. I think a lot of people, when I ask, they're using Chrome or Firefox.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why, I think that for most people, there has to be a real viable reason that they're going to change their browser. We're creatures of habit. We like to do what we're already doing. If it works, it isn't broken. And there's nothing great to offer that's really salient. I think that most people just kind of stick to what they know.
Except if it's an iPhone.
Unless it's an iPhone. But they sell, the difference between the iPhone is they sell it like this is so much better because, you can force touch and there's 3D this and there's a button and you can deal with that. And I think that the one thing that would make me switch browsers would be increased privacy and protection. Besides that, I don't know. I don't know if I would even test it out because why go through that stress if I don't need to?
Well, I assume these aren't people that are really concerned with privacy and protection if they're using like IE8 or, IE7.
Well, we'll certainly find out how much they care about privacy and security and stuff
You can find
in
out
a week.
Everything you want about them,
Because if they keep this installed, they're not going to get any more security updates. And maybe they do, or maybe they don't care about that. It's also good news for developers, I think, because then developers don't need to target those old versions anymore. Don't feel like locked into having to support older versions of the Internet Explorer browser. They can kind of move on with the future, man.
Right. So, I mean, you can use Microsoft Edge if you want to try it every day, like Dominic does, or you can still use IE11 too on Windows 10 for now. So put that 99 cents back in your pocket, 12-year-olds or people who act like 12-year-olds. Snapchat says it's shuttering the doors of its Lens store this Friday after only being open a few months. They say they will focus on their ad business instead. In case you're not a Snapchat user, those lenses are the things that you could make you look like you were throwing up rainbows or look like an old person. It was basically just a way to upgrade your selfies. And they were free. And then Snapchat had a plan that they were going to charge 99 cents for them. And I don't know if this means they're not selling them or if they just, what they said is they wanted to focus on their ad business. So I think it's interesting in terms of, that's what everyone has to figure out. Do we want to charge 99 cents for something or do we just want to advertise it? And it looks like
sell your information and advertise.
Yeah, and I mean it's Snapchat is like that's the next generation. That's what kids are using, and a lot of kids are using it too. So I mean that is they want those people.
So they're $1 a piece. Snapchat has confirmed tens of thousands lenses per day sold. So you take that, and 10 million snaps use those lenses every day. Take that and compare it to their sponsored lenses, which they are still going to sell $450,000 to $750,000 per day off of that. I think maybe it could just be a case of their efforts are just better spent somewhere else, right? Mm-hmm. Like $1 per lens. Also, this is goodwill for their users, right? Because it's one thing to get something and find value in it enough to pay $1 for it. And then when you get to a certain point to where you feel like it has that value, but you're not going to quite pull the trigger because I keep spending $1 on this stuff. And suddenly they open up the floodgates and they say, hey, we're still going to give you these lenses, but now you don't have to pay for them anymore. Suddenly you've got users that are really devoted to your service, maybe a little bit more, more emphatic about using your service because they're getting something that has perceived value, but they're getting it for nothing.
Are you a Snapchat user, Georgia?
I don't use Snapchat, and I don't think that I would really be a huge lens person either. I'm I think that throwing up rainbow vomit would be really cool, but
I mean, it has its time and its place to throw up rainbow vomit.
And its place. I can understand that.
Sure.
It's the classic look, but I don't think that I would really want to. But I can understand how kids then they're trying to make each other look silly and things that are fun, and you enjoy it, and it becomes something like a feature. So people are willing to pay money for features versus just an update where they don't really understand the perceived value to that. And so if you're Snapchat user and you want to buy a whole bunch of lenses, it's open until Friday. So you still have time. Go purchase whatever you have to, and then after it'll be, sponsored, and you can still pick up the lenses that you like. And I think that they're still going to have 10 lenses. They'll be rotating them. So, it's popular. I understand how it would go. And I think that it's nice to have something that's more of a passive income where you don't have to update, and people will complain less if, it's something that it's a sponsored link to a lens. And so you're like, okay, then, you don't have to deal with people being really angry if their, rainbow vomit is off color or any other issue people may have.
The people that will complain less are probably parents. I think, what I thought about when I first heard this story is how many parents are going to complain when they see the bill on their child's phone that you spent, $20 on what lenses? But then parents don't often complain when their children are advertised to, which is now what's going to happen. It's you can only, that's fog under the door. You can't keep that at bay. Our children are advertised to, we just need to talk to them about it, right?
Yeah, I think that it's an important thing. I think that, what advertisements are kids seeing, and, what is the value to that? On Canadian television, they're not allowed to advertise to children. It was rules that were in place so that we're not selling things to kids because they found that would be unethical. And so I think that is an interesting debate of, how do you feel about, having your kids that are then being pushed to? But that's everywhere. It's on every single billboard. It's all around us. And people feel more willing to spend for their time than their hard-earned dollars. And so I think that you also have to think about what's worthwhile. I would rather spend money and not have any ads on something, but that's where I am in my way of life now.
Agreed. I know I spend money on Netflix. Netflix has plans to be fully global by the end of 2016, more or less. They are even closer than ever after Reed Hastings, Netflix CEO, announced at CES today that they've now added more than 130 countries worldwide starting today. They flipped the switch during the keynotes. It was a very kind of dramatic moment in that regard. Netflix already supported around 60 countries. This now also includes more languages, or Arabic, Korean, simplified and traditional Chinese. However, China did not see its release today. We'll see if and when that's going to happen. And Crimea, North Korea, and Syria won't see it due to U.S. government restrictions. So it's not like Netflix is going everywhere, but pretty darn close. And Netflix it's really impressing me from a content perspective, especially because they have plans to release 31 new and returning original series this next year, and getting that content worldwide, it's playing on the same field as original content for HBO. It's that kind of quality, and everybody wants a piece of that now. It's not just a streaming service that has movies that you may or may not care about. It also has just a ton of incredibly valuable original content.
And I think it's interesting that it is being released in Chinese, but not in China. But I mean, there are a lot of Chinese speakers out of China, but also you can watch it in China. You just need to use a VPN server and get around all of the things that people do to get the internet in China. But I think, it is interesting. And all shows, they say, will not be available right away to everyone. I'm a big Netflix fan as well.
Yeah, me as well. Even though I'm on Canadian Netflix, so it is not as great. Sometimes we're missing some content that you can get into the States. But I think that the original series on Netflix are amazing, wonderful quality. And so I really enjoy watching a lot of the new shows that are coming out for Netflix, which is great. So more people will get to enjoy wonderful TV.
It makes you forget that the catalog outside of that original content is very hit or miss. You know what I mean? Because the original content is that good. So it makes perfect sense that they've got worldwide domination in their sites.
Exactly. Well, let's take a minute to thank the first sponsor of this episode. ZipRecruiter has all of your HR needs. They can take care of you from start to finish. Post to 100 plus job sites with one single click and be instantly matched to candidates from over nearly 6 million resumes. Just post once, and with 24 hours, watch your candidates roll into ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use interface. Scott is a happy ZipRecruiter client. He said, the recruiting process used to be so painful. Before I'd post to several places, get a million resumes, but only a few responses from qualified candidates. It was torture. But with ZipRecruiter, we post once and get qualified candidates in one easy-to-review place. We've hired some of our best employees using ZipRecruiter. Thanks, Scott. Today, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/TNT. That's ZipRecruiter.com/TNT. And we thank ZipRecruiter for their support of Tech News Today.
All right, shifting gears, we may have already kind of talked a lot about CES the past few days, but guess what? Today is actually the official day, first day for the show, so there's plenty more to discover. Our own Scott Wilkinson, host of Home Theater Geeks on the Twit Network, is here to talk a little bit about what cool things are happening in the world of in-home entertainment. How's it going, Scott?
Hey, I'm doing good. My dogs are barking a bit, but Sony has been kind enough to let me sit in their simulated living room, so I'm pretty comfy right now.
That's where you are. Okay, so what you got there? Like a couch, or are they kind of upgrading and giving you lots of amazing screens to look at?
Well, I've got an amazing screen to look at right here in front of me. It's the X930D, which is the 2016 version. A high dynamic range, 4K, a new type of backlighting that really looks quite amazing. In this particular room that I'm sitting in, a simulated living room with a couch and a sound bar and a TV mounted on the wall, they're showing all sorts of home automation stuff based on the Android operating system in the TV. So that's really cool. They're controlling lights and shades and Blu-ray player and all sorts of stuff from the Sony remote, the TV remote. And it's all based on Android and Harmony, Logitech Harmony remote technology, and it's working really, really well.
That's cool. Now, it really seems, kind of taking a look at a lot of the stuff that's being shown off at CES this year, it really seems like kind of the UHD thing, the ultra high definition, is a really big deal. What are some of the things that you've seen along those lines?
Well, the UHD or Ultra HD, some people call it 4K. A lot of manufacturers do because it's sexier than UHD or Ultra HD. There's a slight difference between them in terms of actual pixel resolution. Doesn't really matter. But we've had that for a couple of years, at least in terms of the number of pixels on the screen, which is 4 times the number of pixels that you see on an HD TV. That has 2.2 million pixels. Ultra HD has 8.8 million pixels. And those have been around for a couple of years, and I've been one of those who has said, you know, increasing the number of pixels really isn't that important. What's much more important, and what really is, I think, one of the key stories from CES from my perspective, is the addition of what's called high dynamic range and wide color gamut. What that means is that the difference between the darkest black and the brightest white has been expanded. Now, we've had that in TVs for some time, but up until now we haven't had content, or much content, that exploited that had that increased dynamic range. But when you combine content that has the increased dynamic range with a TV or a display that can show it, then you've got something very special, something that no one can say, oh, well, it's just sort of a minor upgrade. It's not really that important. It's really important. It's really a serious wow factor that you look at it and you go, yeah, that's like looking out a window. I remember when HD first came out, everybody said, oh, it's like looking out a window. Well, this is like looking out a window. In addition to the dynamic range, the difference between black and white, we also have a wider range of colors. In the HD world, it's like 16 million colors that typically a TV can reproduce. Now with 10 bits of color per red, green, and blue, you have 1 billion colors that you can represent. So you get the London double-decker red bus, which you couldn't reproduce accurately in HD, or Coca-Cola red. You couldn't reproduce that accurately in HD. You can in UHD with high dynamic range and wide color gamut. And we're now seeing content coming out with those characteristics. Not only streaming, which we've had for maybe a year or so from places like Netflix, Amazon, YouTube's now starting to talk about it. But at this show at CES, we have now seen at least 2 Ultra HD Blu-ray players, and the studios have announced that they're going to put out Ultra HD Blu-ray titles. We should see 100 by the end of the year. So that's a really big deal for me because I'm looking for quality. Streaming is great for convenience, but for those of us who are home theater geeks, we really want the ultimate in quality, and that's going to come from a disc, a physical disc. And these Ultra HD Blu-ray discs are going to be phenomenal. We've seen 2 players, one from Samsung and one from Panasonic. And what's most amazing to me is that the Samsung, you can pre-order it now, and when you pre-order it, it's going to be $400, which is remarkable. Samsung brought out the first Blu-ray player 10 years ago, and it was $1,000 when it first was introduced. So right away, you're less than half the price of what a Blu-ray player started out as. So it's really quite remarkable.
Wow. And also Sony, I know, kind of basically said that there's not going to be a 4K UHD Blu-ray player coming from their end, though they have a premium 1080p model. So there's that at least. Are they kind of missing the boat on this, or it's still incredibly early at this point, so they're probably not missing out on much?
It's exactly. We're at the very early stages here. I'm sure that a lot of other companies are going to jump on the boat, on the bandwagon, if you will, to Ultra HD Blu-ray and streaming as well. They're both going to coexist and be important. Sony Pictures is committed to doing high dynamic range, Ultra HD content, both streaming and Blu-ray titles, as I recall. So I'm just checking with my cohorts here. Thank you very much to Eric Thompson and Tim Hernandez for letting me sit down for a few minutes. I really appreciate that. But yeah, Sony Pictures is one of several studios that have announced that they're going to put out titles. MGM, 20th Century, and Universal, I think, are the other ones.
So I see you're sitting on a couch and you say it's comfortable. Is it a smart couch? Does it have anything in it that's smarter than my regular couch at home?
I don't think this is a smart couch, is it?
Not yet. It is now. It has Scott.
They're working on it.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Right. When you stand up, will it still be smart? That's the question.
Yeah, that's the question. No. Well, we do have smart lights here and drapes from Lutron, I think. And this TV, of course, is a very smart TV, and it can do all kinds of streaming and so on. And it's a quite a comfortable environment here. I wouldn't mind this being my living room. I think I'll stay here tonight. Is that okay?
Scott, do the smart drapes know when I'm watching something that would be inappropriate for my neighbors to see me watching, and will they close automatically?
Oh, good question. No, I don't think they'll close automatically based upon watching X-rated content.
Well, I bet Game of Thrones.
Actually, Eric's telling me they could program it to. They could program it to do that. They could actually program it to do that.
Check in with HBO to make sure, that's rated R. Let's close the drapes just to be safe.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly right.
One last thing that you pointed out, and then we'll let you get on to your busy schedule here. You had also mentioned the LG Signature Series OLED. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that is a beautiful looking TV. It's high dynamic range, 4K. It's available in curved and flat versions, and it just looks phenomenal. It's sort of the ultimate in black level. Although here in the Sony booth, they're showing a technology demonstration of something that on an LED or LCD TV that actually approaches OLED black levels. It's not in a current product, but it is a technology that's quite remarkable. But the LG Signature Series OLED really looks amazing, and I tell you the truth, I can't wait to get one in to review myself. I'm looking forward to it very much. The other thing I want to make sure that I mention here is that the Ultra HD or UHD Alliance, which is a cross-industry consortium of companies that are working on all of this, announced here at the show a set of specifications for Ultra HD, what they're calling Ultra HD Premium. which includes high dynamic range, wide color gamut, and of course the resolution, the 4 times resolution. And if a TV or a display meets those specifications, it can get certified as meeting those specifications. Same with content and same with distribution. So if all of those elements of the signal chain, if you will, meet this standard, then you're going to get a really significant improvement in the performance, in what you see and hear. It even involves immersive audio. And this was an announcement made today, or Monday, I guess. The press conferences are just getting earlier and earlier. This one was Monday night. And so that announcement, I think, is the cornerstone for what I'm thinking is the tipping point to real adoption of UHD or 4K with this high dynamic range and wide color gamut. That's a critically important piece that is now in place, and manufacturers, content creators, and distributors can follow these guidelines that the UHD Alliance has put out now, and the result is a remarkable experience.
All right, so basically, I need to put off buying a new TV. I've got a 10-year-old set. I need to put it off at least for another 2 to 3 years for the price of UHD TVs to come down, and then get in on it.
Well, the price of UHD TVs is coming down significantly and fast. OLEDs are still pretty expensive. We don't know what these new LG Signature Series OLEDs are going to be, but the first LG OLED a 55-inch went from $15,000 2 years ago to under $2,000 today. So we're seeing a significant price drop very fast. And so it won't be that long. I don't think you're going to have to wait 2 or 3 years. I think if you, within this year, towards the end of the year, would be a really good time to be thinking about upgrading to UHD, because you're going to get an experience that improves the situation much like HD improved over standard definition. This is the real turning point, I think, to that kind of a paradigm shift, if you will.
Well, that is exciting, particularly because I'm excited to upgrade my living room. Thank you so much for taking the time today, Scott Wilkinson, on the halls of CES. I know how busy and chaotic it is. Head on to wherever you need to get to. I know you've got a packed schedule, and we're going to be following Scott as well as Father Robert Balacer, doing live coverage from CES. Scott, you're at HT Geek Scott on Twitter. Is that right? Anything else you want to throw people to?
That's right. I'd love to let everybody know that I'm the editor of avsforum.com, world's largest community of AV enthusiasts, home theater geeks, just like me. And if you have any questions about it, you can contact me also by email at scott@twit.tv. And I answer as many as I can, and sometimes I post them, and sometimes I talk about them on Home Theater Geeks. Tune into that, of course, every Thursday, 2 to 3 p.m. Pacific Time, 5 to 6 Eastern on twit.tv, live.twit.tv, and after the fact at twit.tv/HTG.
All right. Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, you guys. Talk to you later.
Okay, then let's take a minute and thank the second sponsor of this episode. That is FreshBooks, super simple cloud accounting software. It's giving thousands of businesses just like yours the tools to save time billing and get paid faster. Getting started on FreshBooks could not be easier, even if you're not a numbers person. I know I'm not a numbers person. You'll be creating and sending invoices in minutes, and you get paid up front, so you don't have to wait around for that money. Now you can request a deposit inside of FreshBooks. No more covering costs out of pocket or waiting until the end of your project to get paid. FreshBooks lets you organize your expenses easily. They make it super easy, just a great interface to track your time almost instantly. Even with your mobile device, you can do it with a device in your pocket. With their automated late payment reminders, you can avoid those awkward emails to late paying clients. Plus, FreshBooks just announced their new card reader. Now you can easily accept credit cards wherever business takes you, quickly and securely, right from your iPhone in less than a minute. FreshBooks card reader is EMV, that's a chip card enabled, the new standard in the US. It works right out of the box. Just open your invoice from the FreshBooks app, plug in the reader, dip the chip, swipe the stripe, and you're on your way. You wonder why you didn't start with FreshBooks sooner. Getting started is simple. It's totally free for 30 days. Go to freshbooks.com/TNT, and don't forget to enter Tech News Today in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Start your 30-day free trial today, and we thank FreshBooks for supporting this episode of Tech News Today. All right, we have found ourselves in the midst of the blurbs. First up, something we've been talking about a couple of days in a row at this point. Well, there are a few things that we've talked about a couple of days in a row. We'll get to the other one in a second. $600. That's all it's going to take to plop the Oculus Rift onto your eyeballs when the device begins shipping March 28th. Of course, that isn't the only cost. You're still going to need a powerful computer to plug that into, but pre-orders are up now. If you simply can't wait, you can hop on that bandwagon and get yourself an Oculus. And that's actually a pretty reasonable price, I'm thinking.
Well, I don't know. I think there's so many interesting things about VR. And one of the things is how up in arms some people got about this $600 price. And in my opinion, they really could have charged anything at all. Like, I think there would have been a whole bunch of people, maybe some people that I work for, possibly with and for, would have paid $3,000 for this, maybe $4,000. So, I mean, $600 in that sense is like, what a deal. I mean, basically, people are paying for to be the first ones to have this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes, I'm on that bandwagon. I can't wait. Can't wait. This is the closest thing to my holodeck. I'm really sad that I'm not going to get the hand controllers at the same time, so I'm going to have to wait for the second quarter, hopefully. But I can't wait for Oculus Rift. This is your, first foray into actually, VR experience. So I want to be part of the first string. The only sadness is that, is it going to be buggy? Are they going to be fixing things? And then when you're an early adopter, you have to think, would have you been happier if you'd waited? Will there be bugs that they have to fix? But I think that I'll probably be one of the first ones with one because I don't care.
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? The early adopter says, it doesn't matter. I have it, and you don't. Matter. So there.
Right. And it's like $600. Like, what else costs $600? Your iPhone, maybe. I mean, for this, I don't know. If you have the 6 Plus, I couldn't measure but it's probably less
huge.
Than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, the Nexus 6P. Also, if you have, my coworker Josh, got it with the extra plan, and it was $600. So,
right.
And it is exciting to be the first one on board. And, what if they were going to charge $200 and it was kind of, didn't really work very well? Like, then you wouldn't want that.
No, you can put the money back into it. The only thing is that, if you're one of the people that get motion sickness and you don't know of that, you might be really upset about spending $600. So, make sure that you have your fresh ginger. And then if you get dizzy in the car or on a boat, this may not be the best experience.
And I heard...
know that ahead of time, by the way, before you drop $600 on it.
I heard that this kind of virtual reality motion sickness affects women more than it does men. Have you heard that, Georgia?
I have not heard that. And I know that I know that women are more sensitive to, so what happens with motion sickness is where you are standing is different from where the horizon is. And so you can see something in the horizon is different than that. And so you end up getting two different signals. One signal is saying that the ground is moving, and your signals from your inner ear, which works through liquid, is saying that it's stable. And that makes us worried that are we actually sick? And that's why we feel dizzy and we want to sit down. So I haven't heard that women get that more than men. It could very well be the case because we are more prone to illness and being more attuned to that. But a fresh piece of ginger sliced really thin, fresh, not the pickled kind, will help you with motion sickness. And so you'll get a good 10 to 15 minutes of being able to use your Oculus Rift, or even if you end up getting car sick, it works exceptionally well and better than any pills that are on the market. So you can just pick up one of those first.
All right, you'll pick up your ginger, pick up your $600 Oculus, pick up the $1,200 PC that you need in order to run it, and just call it a day. Well, Chevy made an announcement at CES today. Their Bolt pure electric car, not to be confused with the company's hybrid Volt, that the Bolt will have a range of more than 200 miles. The car was announced last year, but this $30,000 car is in the near future, not the Faraday future like that Batmobile we talked about yesterday. The price it's $30,000. That's after all the tax credits you get for buying a pure electric car. That's $7,500 you get in tax credit. What do you guys think about this electric car?
Well, we've got a charger right out in the garage around the corner, so it's not unrealistic for me to think that I could just get one, always charge it here, take it home. people, I have no life. Like I work and then I go home, like which is right down the street. So this would be perfect for me.
Well, the range is good.
Yeah, the range is
Is
great.
great, and it's nice to have an electric car. I just wish it didn't look like an electric car. Like,
Yeah.
Tesla looks really cool. This is a little, it's nice looking. It's nice looking, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I really did consider getting an electric car most recently when we got a new car, but the range that was available, we couldn't even drive from here to San Francisco reliably without and be able to like go out to dinner
Right.
and then know we could find a place to charge it up and get back, and just that range anxiety was too much for me. I don't know. You could maybe if I watched your anxiety videos, Georgia, I would have been
You would have been just fine.
right. Do you deal with range anxiety for electric cars? Is that something that you work on in your office?
I have not yet had any cases of range anxiety for electric cars, but who knows?
Range anxiety apparently is a
Range
thing.
anxiety
It
a
is.
thing.
I have it, and I don't even have an electric car.
The thought of being stranded,
Yeah.
that's a real thing.
Mm-hmm. That's true. What about the thought of your house being burglarized when you thought it was protected? You thought that Xfinity Home by Comcast was going to keep the burglars out of your home. It turns out it might let them in instead, thanks to its Zigbee-based protocol that uses the 2.4 gigahertz radio frequency to operate. Someone with proper equipment can actually block the signal that passes from the protected portal, be it a door or a window, whatever it is, to the hub. And the system won't realize a connection is halted and also won't alert you to that lost connection, basically leaving things unprotected. The system still assumes that the house is secure and the window is closed when in fact it is open now because it was blocked on the way. And what's kind of interesting about this is Comcast. This was a discovery by security researchers at Rapid7 who contacted Comcast last November. Comcast never really, got back to them. But now, of course, that this is kind of hitting the news and a lot of people are talking about it. They're being a little bit more communicative about that. And Comcast basically says like there's it's not a problem of our system. It's a problem of the kind of technology that's being used here. And it's more a change that needs to happen on an industry level than it is something that they can necessarily do inside their system specifically. So I don't know if that means that it reaches out beyond just the Xfinity home protection or what, but.
Well, I think it's a problem with Internet of Things in general. And
Yeah.
it's a problem that doesn't have an immediate solution, but everyone knows it's a problem. I mean, there was another story we were going to report today about the FTC chairperson, Edith Ramirez. She said at CES that Internet of Things needs more transparency about how, who has our information and what they're doing with it. And I had total deja vu when I heard the story. And then I looked back and she said the exact same thing at CES last year. Like basically there was
She still believes it.
She's still, and there's still no.
It's still important.
Yeah, it's
to
still
her,
important, and it's still a problem, and we still have no idea what to do with it.
Yeah.
And people need to be upset about this. I think we're becoming a little bit, we hear it so often that people are becoming a little bit complacent with their own security and not expecting that if you install a system in someone's house, the first thing should be that you can ensure that this is going to be secure. And if not, should we be installing things into the home? It's a really difficult question because I don't think that people really understand, they should be listening to this show, but I don't think that people really understand what people can do with the information they have on you and how vulnerable we truly are. Especially
consider this, when you sign up for Xfinity Home, you get a thing that you put out in your yard that's like, my home is protected by, which is kind of like a calling card, essentially.
Hack me.
It's like, hey, take a look. Yeah, we're on that system too that you can
Well,
hack
yeah,
if you have the right equipment.
I think it is interesting that it's not a Comcast problem, but like I already don't trust Comcast. I'm not going to trust that. I mean, that's like I do. I guess I don't really trust Amazon, and I trust them. I have the Echo in my house that has. I guess I don't trust anyone.
Trust no one. We learned this years ago.
But I least of all trust Comcast, so it is not who I would use to protect my home.
Fair enough.
And it is who I use for my internet service because I have to.
Do you trust Fitbit?
I did until today. The Fitbit they've had a hard week. Yesterday, their new smartwatch, the Blaze, was met with rather a cold response. Then the company was slapped with a class action lawsuit over inaccurate heart rate monitoring. It's a nationwide suit. It says that the Fitbit Charge HR and the Surge don't record every heartbeat, and the plaintiffs say this is not only annoying but dangerous.
Okay.
I don't know about dangerous.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what dangerous.
My heart stopped.
too far with dangerous. I think that it's, if you're saying that something can, and how accurate, like, even for the Apple Watch, if you have like a connectivity problem, if you have like tattoos, there's different things that are going to change the ability for it to accurately read. But the same thing with a regular heart rate cuff. These are also, it depends on who's reading it, what the pressure gauge is dealing with. So nothing's going to be perfect to that, but it is sad if people are thinking that they're increasing their heart rate and want to increase it to a certain pace in order to get their fitness, and then they've been lied to. It loses their trust in the products that they're using, and then that makes people feel upset. So.
Yep.
Well, I learned that when I went to Montana that my Apple Watch didn't work in the cold. Like I was, my heart rate wasn't accurate. And then I looked on Apple, and they say it doesn't work in the cold. They've covered themselves. Like if it's very cold, if it's -5 degrees, it's not going to work as expected because it has to do with your blood and the heat, and it makes sense. But yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, makes sense.
Luminosity, an app that promised to train your brain based on, things like science, has settled a deceptive advertising suit with the FTC, handing over $2 million in the process. The company had an aggressive ad campaign targeted at those looking to avoid memory loss, dementia, and Alzheimer's disease, kind of promoted that prominently, saying that their app would help with that. The FTC says science doesn't back up those claims. You're kind of the perfect person to have on for a story like this, Georgia. What do you take from this?
Yeah, I think that, no, Luminosity and other brain training games don't actually make you any smarter. They make you smarter at doing those games. So
Sure.
Whatever you're doing, you're getting better at practicing that. So if you want to learn geography and you're playing a geography game, you will get better at geography. If you're doing a memory game or a number game, you will get faster reaction time because neurons that fire together wire together. And so the more that you do something repetitively, you will get better at that, but only at that. Mm-hmm. And so when you're dealing with something that, for people that are dealing with dementia or Alzheimer's, they're hoping that it's actually going to slow down the effects of this. And that's caused by like beta amyloid plaques that are kind of sticking in between neurons and slowing down its connectivity. And so no, Luminosity would definitely not help with that. And I think that that's where they get themselves into a lot of trouble, because if they had not said things of dementia and Alzheimer's, they could say that it makes you better at the games that you are playing on the application, which would have been true. But it would not actually help people dealing with dementia and Alzheimer's and slow down that progression to it. Though, keeping more active and being with people does help, and so at least you're doing something other than nothing. But there's many other things that would probably be more effective than only playing Luminosity.
Yeah, the marketing punch is really removed when you go from helps you be smarter to helps you play those games you have on your phone better. Not as sharp of a marketing message.
No. Well, what about like crossword puzzles? I mean, we always hear crossword puzzles make you, will keep you from getting dementia. Is that also not true? They just make you better at crossword puzzles?
Yes, unfortunately so. Actually, one of the best things for dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia would be exercise. Oh. Keeping fit, being social, seeing people, and exercising. These are things that work really well at keeping the little learning neurons. We have little growth factors on our neurons that say grow here, and exercising works really well to increase those. And also getting enough rest, dealing with your sleep. So, to be the most honest, then you could actually say that, workout applications and applications that would help you sleep better for longer, because at night we have found that when you are sleeping is when our brain is doing most of the flushing of all of the refuse of your brain, using up all of those proteins during the daytime. And so that's when we kind of cleanse the brain and get get rid of all of the refuse to that. But unfortunately, that's really where your bang for the buck is.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, our next story is about a topic I promised to stop talking about after this one last thing. The Samsung Smart Fridge. We had one additional piece of information. The final piece of the puzzle, it's going to cost you $5,000.
No biggie. I don't know. I'm trying to remember what we paid for our fridge. It was probably a couple. Yeah, I think
I paid $800 for my refrigerator in 2004.
Yeah.
And it's the ice maker.
And it doesn't have a
work
huge
anymore.
see-through door.
I
with
have
a
to open
screen
the door.
yeah.
I have to, I'm not allowed to talk about the Samsung smart fridge anymore, but anyone else can talk about it.
I don't know. I think as long as CES is going on, we can continue talking about VR and smart fridges.
Yeah. Though I love the idea that it's going to that it'll send you pictures of what's inside of your fridge. That's useful. It's better than though I would just be like, someone open the fridge and tell me if we're out of milk, or try to remember instead of paying $5,000, or, I could just stick my phone in there and make it auto take pictures of what's inside, save myself a little bit of money. But it is a cool idea.
And finally, if you've just been pining for that AT&T exclusivity to burn off so you can get a Blackberry Priv, you don't have to wait much longer. Verizon, Sprint, and T-Mobile will soon carry the Android device, we found out today. BlackBerry CEO John Chen didn't actually give a time frame, but T-Mobile CEO John Leisure revealed a January 26th date on Twitter. So if that's your phone, if that's the future phone for you, you're soon to be able to be reunited with it. Leo has one, has used it, and is very, very positive on it. So, I don't know. If BlackBerry's your thing, there you go.
Yeah. We love to get your feedback, email, Twitter. You can send us voicemails. You can send us whatever. I'd love it if you would record a message, then put it on your phone, record it, email it so we can play it on the show. Chris on Twitter said he had some trouble using the iOS podcast app to download the HD video of our show. He said it stopped, and then he had to unsubscribe and resubscribe, but he finally got it working. But what I would recommend is that people not use the iOS podcast app and instead use Downcast or Pocket Casts or Overcast. If you only want an audio podcast player, Overcast is a great one for that. What are you?
So you're saying that this is just a bad player.
I don't think it was a
Bad
problem on our end. I mean, it's a new show, so maybe there was some problem on our end. But
I didn't hear it from anyone else. Big Pocket Cast fan. That's mine. For sure.
So obviously on Android too.
Yeah, but there is also Pocket Casts on iOS as well as Windows Phone.
Windows Phone, yeah. Georgia, how do you get your podcasts?
Overcast. Yeah.
Yeah, I like many of them. It's hard. You can't say I use them all because then you end up downloading everything on your phone and
3 or 4 or 5 different times.
But I do go back and forth. They have a lot of features that the iOS app doesn't have. You can share podcasts. You can share certain moments in the podcast. You can stream versus downloading. So we love your feedback. Thank you so much, and don't forget to subscribe. And now we can take a minute to thank Epson for sponsoring this episode. Epson's revolutionary EcoTank line of printers for home and office introduce a new age in printing. The new EcoTank ET4550 wireless all-in-one printer doesn't use ink cartridges. Instead, it features an innovative refillable ink tank. Comes with enough ink to print up to 8,500 pages, equivalent to about 50 ink cartridge sets. You're loaded and ready to print for up to 2 years. Powered by Epson's leading-edge precision core technology, it delivers high-speed, vivid colors and laser-quality black text, plus auto two-sided printing, a 30-page auto document feeder, and easy wireless printing from tablets and smartphones. All EcoTank printers deliver an unbeatable combination of convenience and value with ultra-low-cost replacement ink bottles. Now you have the freedom to print without running out of ink. Visit Epson.com/EcoTank today to transform the way your home, office, or work group prints. For the best combination of ease and value, turn to the new Epson EcoTank printers. That's EPSON.com/EcoTank, and we thank Epson for their support. And our last segment tonight is about another product from CES.
Of course.
It is a drone that you can ride in.
This is the Chinese company just announced the E-Hang, that's how you say it, 184, an all-electric octocopter. The same form factor as a drone, but large enough to carry a single passenger. The company is calling it autonomous aerial vehicle, and they say it can fly 60 miles an hour. This thing is pretty crazy looking. I don't imagine you see these popping around in the sky anytime soon. 60 miles per hour for 23 minutes on battery power is what you get out of something like this.
So you just skip the traffic and.
That's definitely going to cause you range anxiety. Battery power in the air. That would be really...
Yes. Oh, okay. And there's also this. There's a backup system online. So, if a bird, if you have a bird collision, it will actually jump in and land the craft for you.
Oh, okay. Then that seems perfectly
safe. I want a parachute.
You need a parachute.
I need a parachute because I would love one, but I'm an okay driver, but I'd probably hit some tree or it would probably end really poorly for me. So I'd need some sort of parachute system to make sure that,
Oh my gosh.
it goes way too fast probably. I have to have like the 10 miles per hour version.
Yeah, and who knows? You're probably too low to the ground for it to matter with a parachute. It also wouldn't they say require a pilot's license?
Great.
So I'm slightly afraid at this point of this
This
future
does not
world.
end well for us.
Yeah, no, this isn't going to work for me.
Not yet. I don't know.
But it's cool looking.
Yeah.
And if it's okay, so then real quick before we kind of close things out, if you were granted the ability to fly around in one of these, would you risk yourself in one at this point?
No. Why would I ever do that?
See, I would do it. I'm so bad that way. I would have to try, like I would stay close to the ground, but I would have to get in and just like get a little bit airborne.
I agree. It's like when you ask people like, would you bungee jump off that huge, just ridiculous cliff? Yes or no? And some people are willing to take the risk for the reward. And I don't know. I think I would do it too.
People
I think
smarter.
Yeah, well,
Yes,
you do all those
exactly.
things, Georgia. You like swim with sharks and you skydive. And
I haven't yet skydived, but I will. I would
okay.
skydive over bungee jump. I don't know. The bungee jumping doesn't. I'm like,
Yeah.
No, I would definitely skydive in just once, just a little bit off the ground, just to say that you did it. You don't have to get really high.
Yeah. Someday.
So,
I'm sure Leo will buy one. So
the autonomous aerial vehicle is the new skydiving then, I guess.
someday
The way that I
we're
would buy
talking
it would be.
we're talking at least 5 years. That's all.
Okay. Yeah.
So.
Yes, maybe. Not now.
We'll see.
Well, Georgia, thank you so much for joining us. Georgia, of course, writes for iMore. She's on the iMore podcasts and many different other podcasts and has her anxiety videos. It's anxiety-videos, right? Tell us a little bit about those videos.
So what we have is it's like therapy at home. So if you're dealing with anxiety and you're too shy or you want an adjunct to the therapy that you're already dealing with, you can just go down and you download the videos and we go through the different sets of, session 1, session 2, session 3 of anxiety. And we also have a set for, not if you have anxiety, but if you're dealing with sleep issues, we have a special series that deals with how to sleep better, longer, get your rest, deal with that beta amyloid plaque, and take care of yourself.
Well, thank you so much for joining. It's always a pleasure to
you.
have your perspective
Thank
on
you.
any of our shows.
All right. Take care, Georgia. And have fun not being at CES, even though you wish you were.
Oh, that hurts.
I'm sorry. Had to get that in. All right. Thanks, Georgia.
Thanks.
Tomorrow, we are thrilled to welcome to the show Nathan Olivares-Giles from the Wall Street Journal. He's going to be joining us for the full episode. You can take part in the show. As Megan mentioned earlier, all you need to do is email us at tnt@twit.tv. Leave us a short voicemail at 260-TNT-SHOW. Find us on Twitter. We're all over the map. Just search for Tech News Today, wherever you happen to be. Tech News Today records live every Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 12 a.m. UTC at twit.tv/live.
And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this show on iTunes or Stitcher or TuneIn or your favorite podcast catcher. You can find all the ways to subscribe at twit.tv/TNT. You can also follow the show on Twitter. We're at Tech News Today TV.
That's right.
Or at Megan Morrone or at Jason Howell. And I am Megan Morrone.
And I'm Jason Howell. That's all we wrote. Thank you, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.